Meet George Jetson. If you grew up watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons, chances are you've zoomed through the skies with the Jetson family at some point. But did you know they also had a run-in with space pirates on the Super Nintendo? Today, we're diving into one of the lesser-known SNES titles, the Jetsons, Invasion of the Planet Pirates. Strap in, fire up your jetpack, and let's blast off. The Jetsons, Invasion of the Planet Pirates, was developed by Taito and released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a side-scrolling action platformer starring George Jetson himself, and it features colorful graphics, puzzle-based levels, and some surprisingly clever gameplay mechanics. Unlike many licensed games of the era that phoned it in, this one actually had a bit of heart. And if the art style looks familiar, that's because it shares visual DNA with other Taito-developed titles like The Flintstones, Treasure of the Sierra Madrock. The story kicks off with a classic cartoon twist. An evil pirate named Zora has taken over various planets and is threatening peace in the solar system. Of course, in a future filled with robotic maids and flying cars, who else would you send to stop an intergalactic pirate invasion? That's right. George Jetson, a mild-mannered employee at Spacely Sprockets, is recruited by the authorities to put a stop to Zora's schemes. George isn't exactly a space marine, but with some sci-fi gadgets and your help, he's the galaxy's last hope. At its core, the Jetsons, Invasion of the Planet Pirates, is a 2D platformer, but with some interesting quirks. George isn't armed with a blaster or a sword. Instead, he relies on a suction cup gun that lets him pick up and throw objects, interact with the environment, and solve puzzles. It's a surprisingly versatile tool. The controls are tight, but George has this awkward delay when changing direction mid-jump, something that can be a little frustrating in the more platform-heavy segments. Levels are broken up into futuristic environments, with lots of mechanical hazards, moving platforms, and enemy robots. Each stage generally ends with a boss fight, some of which can be a real test of reflexes and pattern recognition. George can also climb poles, ride conveyor belts, and trigger switches to manipulate the level around him. It's not just a run-and-jump affair. You have to think, plan, and react. Visually, this game does a great job of capturing the look and feel of the classic Jetsons cartoon. The character sprites are clean and expressive, and the backgrounds are filled with those distinctive mid-century sci-fi shapes and pastel colors. Think domes, rocket fins, and gleaming white corridors. Animations are fluid, especially for George himself, who fumbles around with his gadgetry in a way that's totally on brand. And enemy designs range from goofy space bots to mechanical monstrosities. It's not the most technically impressive SNES game, but it nails the cartoon aesthetic perfectly. The soundtrack is upbeat and whimsical, very much in line with the futuristic fun of the Jetsons. Taito's composers delivered a peppy, synthy score that helps set the tone, even if none of the tracks are particularly memorable. Sound effects are punchy and cartoonish. You'll hear lots of boings, zaps, and whooshes, which suit the light-hearted tone. George's suction cup gun has a satisfying plunk, and robot enemies short-circuit in a shower of retro sparks. There's no voice acting, but a few digitized lines might have added some nice flair, especially with such an iconic character. While the game starts off fairly manageable, later stages ramp up in difficulty, tricky jumps, enemies placed just off-screen, and some trial-and-error puzzle segments can frustrate even seasoned players. But it's not unfair. Most deaths are avoidable once you get the hang of the mechanics. Boss battles tend to rely on pattern recognition rather than brute force, which is a nice change of pace. There are only 6 stages, so the game isn't long, but it can feel longer due to the challenge curve. Unfortunately, there's no save system or password feature, so if you want to beat it, you'll need to do it in one sitting or rely on a cheat device or emulator save states. The Jetsons' Invasion of the Planet Pirates never became a household name, even among Super Nintendo fans. Maybe it was the timing. 1994 was packed with blockbuster games, or maybe the Jetsons IP just didn't have the same lasting power as other franchises. Still, this is one of the better Hanna-Barbera adaptations in video game form. It's well-crafted, faithful to the source material, and offers a fun mix of action and puzzle solving. If you're a fan of quirky licensed games or hidden SNES gems, this one's worth checking out. It may not reach the heights of Super Mario World or Mega Man X, but it's a solid platformer that deserves a little more love. So, what do you think? Have you played the Jetsons' Invasion of the Planet Pirates? Was it a nostalgic favorite, or one you missed entirely? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this trip through retro space, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss future videos. Keep an eye out for Inspector Gadget, the Flintstones, the Treasure of the Sierra Madrock, and maybe even Scooby-Doo mystery reviews coming soon for the Super Nintendo.